Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Saturday, March the 7th. Ian Cameron. We'll have Alex B. Smith here momentarily as well. And joining us is someone we haven't had on the show for a while, but he raised his hand and said, I'm around on Saturday. And if you want someone to join the show, I'm here. And he's here right now, our good friend Mikey, back on the show. It's been a while, Mikey. How have you been?
It has been a while. I missed you guys. Yeah, it's been a little busy. Work schedule's been a little chaotic and different the last few months, so I wasn't able to come on here as much as possible. But yeah, been home all day today. Got the Bruins on in about 20 minutes, so I'm glad to be back on and talking hockey with you guys.
Yeah, good to have you back. Busy Saturday as usual. Good card to look forward to here in the NHL on this Saturday, which we'll get into in just a moment. We'll start by tying up the loose ends with the trade deadline. There were a couple of deals that went down just as we were going off the air, or a couple deals that were confirmed just after we wrapped up the show yesterday. Bobby McMahon got dealt to Seattle right after the deadline from the Leafs. They also dealt Scott Laughton to LA, and it's pretty funny to see that they gave away a first-round pick to get him. They turn around and they only get a third-round pick in return, a conditional third-round pick. It could actually advance to a second-round pick if the Kings make the playoffs, but still, when you look back on it, not the best piece of business done there by Brad Treliving. But nevertheless, the Leafs do part ways with McMahon and with Scott Laughton. And I guess the biggest move post the show ending yesterday was the reunion of Nazem Kadri going back to the Colorado Avalanche. And this is a deal that Calgary and Colorado were working on for quite some time. And Elliot Friedman, I know, said there looked like times where talks completely broke down. The sides just went their separate ways. It didn't look like they were going to get back to the negotiating table and try to make this work. But at the 11th hour, they did make it work. And the Colorado Avalanche add Nazem Kadri to give them one hell of a center ice position. I mean, you talk about down the middle strength. I don't know if there's anyone that can match them in the Western Conference from that standpoint. I mean, it's just a really nice ad. It's a guy that was comfortable in Colorado, knows the organization, knows a lot of those teammates from when he was there a few years ago. And like I said, very interesting to see how that plays out. I did like the idea of Calgary getting Olofsson. When you look at it, not bad in return, but Olofsson can be lazy at times. You know what I mean? I mean, and he's been accused of being mostly a power play merchant in the past. There's times where 5-on-5 he kind of disappears at times, but you make this trade if you're Colorado. You're all in on winning a second Stanley Cup in the Nathan MacKinnon era and Cale Makar era for that matter. So you make a move like this, and if you have the chance to strengthen and bolster and make yourself one of the deepest center ice, center position teams in the Western Conference, you do it. And that's absolutely what Colorado was able to do. So a great job by them. Of course, they went on to have a nice comeback win last night against the Dallas Stars in what was just a phenomenal Friday night hockey game last night. Unfortunately, Roope Hintz goes down to injury, so Dallas loses the game. They lose a point on Colorado, a point they couldn't afford to lose out on, considering it's already tough enough to try to catch them for first. They lose a point of ground to Colorado in that shootout loss last night, and they lose Roope Hintz after they just got him back. Tied up in a collision there with Nathan MacKinnon that resulted in his absence from the game. So that's unfortunate for them, and they think it might be time missed now once again for Hintz. So tough ending to the game for the Dallas Stars. It was a great hockey game, and I've seen enough. Scott Wedgwood's got to be the number one goalie. He's got to be the number one goalie. That was a big spot for Mackenzie Blackwood, facing a team that's really good, a team that he's had issues with in the past, a team that he was in net for. He was in net for that haunted Game 7 last year when Dallas had that third period comeback and beat Colorado. And it's either the demons are still in his head when he plays Dallas, or he's just not good enough, because he had to be better than he was early in that game. He got pulled. It was a good move by Bednar. And then Scott Wedgwood, the wedge wall, and he was a wedge wall last night, slams the door on Dallas the rest of the way. He should be the guy. He's had the better season than Mackenzie Blackwood in my mind. I think it's time we have to run with Scott Wedgwood as the starting goaltender in my mind, at least for the Avs, but a big win for them there. Very disappointing loss for Detroit last night. The 2 points on the table there with Florida struggling, Florida limping going into that game to lose 3-1. Very disheartening. Same old shit with Edmonton, even with Connor Murphy, even with Jason Dickinson, even with Colton Dach making their Oilers debuts. Still the same old bad defense, giving up 6 goals. They get pounded by Carolina 6-3, as easy as it gets with the over. What is that now? 12 straight Oilers games, 7 or more goals. So the run just keeps on going for them. I still think in time you're going to see some defensive improvement. Those are all good defensive players. But I said it's not going to happen first game. These guys just joined the team. They're getting used to their teammates. You can't just say, oh, flip the switch. Defense is going to be great. Dickinson and Murphy and Dach are here. No, it's going to take some time. And there's still some real issues in terms of just getting everybody on the same page. And the team structure just is continuing to lack right now for Edmonton. So I think in time, the new players will make them a little bit better defensively. But as I said, it'll take time. Speaking of defense, no defense in Anaheim last night. My goodness, back and forth it went. Ducks winning a shootout 6-5 over Montreal. We cashed the full game over there as well. Not a good night for Montembeault and the Habs blue line, but to get a point out of that with the 3 goals in the third, 2 of them by Cole Caulfield, to get a point out of that, you'll take it. But still, I'm concerned with Montreal. I said this on Twitter during the game last night. Their play is declining. Their defense is getting worse, not better. They have goaltending concerns. Dobish has been a little bit better, but even he's up and down. And Montembeault, it's been a long time since he's delivered a great start. And they did fuck all to improve the team at the trade deadline yesterday. So, like I said, I've got some concerns with Montreal. They haven't clinched squat yet. Like, there's still a scenario where Montreal can fall out and miss the playoffs. It could absolutely still happen. So they got work to do, especially at the defensive end of the ice. St. Louis trading away pieces left and right and still winning hockey games. This might be, you could say, the best stretch of hockey St. Louis has played all year. And it continued last night. They beat San Jose in overtime 3-2. Robert Thomas, a 2-goal game, did not get dealt at the deadline. He has 2 goals, including the overtime winner for St. Louis last night. And Minnesota, the first goal, first period market has been so good for me. It was not last night. Montreal, first goal, first period, didn't cash, and neither did Minnesota, first goal, first period. They did get the first goal, but unfortunately it was in the second period after a scoreless first period. But boy, the floodgates opened. They scored 3 times in a 3-minute span to take a 3-0 lead and pretty much paced themselves to victory from that point on, and they beat Vegas by a score of 4-2. Vegas continues to be lousy in these first game home spots after a road trip. And a nice win there for the Minnesota Wild. The over 6 lands on a push. So, again, the Minnesota overrun, it's kind of slowing down a little bit. It's been, I think, a loss and 2 pushes with Minnesota totals the last 3 games. So, but, we haven't lost more than 1 in a row with it. So I still may come back to it. Another Wild over next game. We'll see. But you can tell the great run, which is still, 23-2 or something like that, 24-2, something like that. It's been a great run with Minnesota overs, but you can tell it's starting to cool off a little bit here in these last few games. Mikey, what are your thoughts on what we saw Friday, and anything you want to mention regarding the moves at trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of big winners. You got Anaheim and Colorado. I think the Carlson trade to Anaheim makes sense. I know he's up there in age, but you got a lot of young blood on that blue line, like Lacombe. I think he's going to be a huge asset to Lacombe. So their blue line is deep. They have a ton of prospects. I think Verbeek did as good of his job as he could have with what was available, and they still have a chance to win the Pacific Division. Like, that's not out of the question. It's just heavy competition right now in the Pacific. Like you said on Colorado, not to beat a dead horse, but the most important thing come playoffs is like the back end on. So, their goaltending, I mean, it's all right. It's not terrible, but that they're going to be able to roll all 4 lines come playoff time. And that center depth, I mean, good luck. And whoever ends up, after the first round, whether it's Minnesota, Dallas, I mean, it's going to be such a tough out with that Colorado team. And they've been great all year, and they just got better. I mean, when you have, I don't know if Waugh is going to be a 3rd-line center or what, but I mean, when it's that deep and Waugh might drop down as the 4th-line center, like, Jesus, like, good job with what you guys did. And Calgary retained at least $1 million-ish of the Kadri contract. So, I mean, job well done by Colorado. The Leafs, like you mentioned, just a disaster since last year. I mean, from what they did at the deadline last year till now, I mean, if I was a Leafs fan, I'd be irritated. But you got to think, if there was deals to be made, it's just the market. What did Tree Living say? The market dictates what they do, and that's very true. But I mean, you got to be really hurting if you're a Leafs fan from what you did last year with acquiring Carlo and giving that pick and those players to Boston, and now you're getting thirds in return for ones you gave up. That's a tough pill to swallow. But as far as the games last night, like you said, St. Louis, don't tell them. I mean, obviously they're not going to make the playoffs, but what they're doing right now, the last couple of games, they're going to be giving some teams a tough look. And
it's time to start backing St. Louis, I think, for me. I've missed some opportunities. It's time. Like, they still have tons of talent, especially with Holloway healthy and in the lineup. I mean, they have a good forward group still. And even after trading the captain, Braden Shannon, they didn't trade Colton Parayko. They didn't trade Robert Thomas. This is still going to be a competitive team capable of winning games down the stretch, and they're showing it right now.
Yeah. 100%. Like I said, Parayko once stayed. You still have Binnington. You still have Kyrou. You still have Thomas. I mean, you still have those pieces there to build around. So, I mean, it's not going to be an easy just fade St. Louis down the road. So we'll see how that goes. That Dallas-Colorado game, I mean, you can sign me up to watch those games 10 times over 100. I mean, they are so entertaining. I mean, that total was, did it close at 6 yesterday, that total?
Which one?
The Dallas-Colorado game.
It did. It closed. It opened 5.5. It quickly moved to 6, and then it was mostly 6 for the whole day. I think that got to a juiced 6, but that's now. I've lost count how many overs it's been with Colorado Dallas head to head, and that one was, you could tell in the first period this game's going over the total. It did eventually slow down in the third period, but it had already gone over by that point. So just Colorado and Dallas, they get together. It's high scoring most of the time.
Yeah, it is. Canucks 6-3 win over Chicago was heavy dogs. A lot of road wins last night and a few underdog wins last night. Edmonton, I mean, listen, I know if it was either Bob or no goalie. That was the thing with Edmonton. Unless we can get Bob, we're not going to get another goalie. But what are they at? If they do shore up the defense, then what's going to happen? Is the offense going to dry up? Because right now the offense is just absolutely on fire. 5+ goals a game, no problem. I'm just worried if they finally lock it down, what's going to happen to the offense? I mean, to see that offense slow down, it's hard to believe, but it's unfortunate they have to go into another postseason with the goalie situation. I mean, it's crazy that this couldn't get resolved in the last 3 years. It's just really hard to believe.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's been, like I said, it's Tristan Jarry, another rough night for him. I think I'm going to play this. I know we got to get to Washington, Boston. We'll get to that right after this. But some of this Knobloch press conference, I mean, this looks like a guy that's run out of answers, run out of things to fix the problems. But I'm trying to see if I can find that clip. Yeah, some of these answers, though, last night, boy, oh boy, it was kind of a rough list with Chris Knobloch. Here it is, some of his post-game press conference after last night.
2 goals almost immediately after we had the lead. And, obviously it's very easier to play with the lead. But, I don't have an answer for that.
Did the 3
new
new
players
players
saying something like that? I don't have an answer right now with the
tonight?
defensive issues. Then there was another
they had
point when here. Listen,
first very comfortable.
This team to defend the way that you want this team to defend, like your guys' philosophy, the stuff you're coaching. How would you describe that, and where do you think it's lacking? Like, where is the follow through not there from the players?
Obviously,
that
there's
hesitation has no
many
fucking
points
clue what to
that
say.
need to be
None
improved,
at all.
and we talked
Oh
about.
Man, he's an exasperated head coach right now. I think he's lost, Mikey, any semblance of how to find an answer for these defensive woes of the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, you could just see the stammering, the stuttering, the hesitation, in answering that last question. And then the previous question when asked about defensive structure, I don't have the answer for you. I mean, boy, yikes. So that tough night for Chris Knobloch when you listen to that.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like it's been the same old song and dance for he's like running out of answers because he keeps answering the same questions
Yep.
and he keeps getting the same things from the reporters. And I understand they gotta ask those questions, but I mean, I'd be just as frustrated. I mean, there's no way that guy has hope going into the postseason with those netminders between the pipes. You just can't.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Tough sledding right now. There's no question for this team and defensively. And you just wonder at this point in time, when's it going to get corrected? When is it going to get fixed? And we're still waiting on that. The hope is that Murphy, Dickinson in particular, two defensive-minded guys, can do that. It's going to take time, though. The chemistry's got to form. I would say let's reevaluate it in probably a couple of weeks. Give it a solid couple of weeks with the new players that you got from Chicago that are supposed to help you at least a little bit defensively. But if we don't see any massive improvement by then, it may never happen as far as Edmonton becoming a better defensive team. All right, let's get into the Saturday card because we got a game starting in about 15 minutes. Washington, Boston, the first of an afternoon Saturday hockey doubleheader on ABC. They've been doing these, of course, late in the season, is just like they did last year. We've got Boston minus 130, home favorites, 6 the total here in this one. Yeah, I'm on Boston. It's really that simple. They've won 11 straight at TD Garden, 11 straight home wins for the Boston Bruins entering this game. Bounce back spot after a bad game against Nashville. Marco Sturm actually was thinking that the reason they lost is because they saw Nashville obviously trading players, and he said it after the game. It's almost like we thought it was going to be easy. We just thought, hey, we're going to step on the ice and win. We didn't really put in the work to beat this team, thinking, Nashville's, losing players and it's going to be an easy night. And of course, they had a terrible night in Nashville. So I'd expect them to bounce back here today against Washington. And I don't love the vibes in the dressing room right now with Washington after what I saw yesterday. Everyone reacting to John Carlson getting traded to Anaheim. Now, I know for Ovi and Tom Wilson and a lot of the veterans that, he's been there for a while. They won a Stanley Cup together, but the reaction was just incredibly emotional. It's like somebody died. Member of the team died. The reaction to John Carlson getting traded. Everyone was dejected. Everyone looked sorrowful. Everyone looked down in the dumps. That's not a bet-on vibe to me coming out of the trade deadline for the Washington Capitals, a team that turned out to be more seller than buyer. Nick Dowd also got traded to the Vegas Golden Knights, a team that's on the outside looking in. So where's their mentality at right now, the Washington Capitals? They still have enough pieces to make a run and get in the playoffs, but it's not going to be easy for the Capitals. There's a lot of teams they got to jump. And there's still some inconsistencies in their game. They don't get much scoring from their bottom six. The blue line and the bottom, pair is a little bit iffy. I like Logan Thompson a lot, but too many times he's been counted on to bail the team out and win games for them. They've lost 2 in a row as well against Utah at home and Montreal last week. So they're on a little bit of a 2-game spiral here. So I like how it sets up here for Boston. They've been damn near unbeatable at home the last month or so. So I'm more like the last 2 months. But, yeah, I took them. I got minus 120. It's up to minus 130. I think it's still playable at the current price. So, yeah, I'm on the Bruins here. Mikey, Washington, Boston.
Yeah, I'm on Boston too. I know it's about to start, but I locked it in at minus 115 yesterday. I know it's gone up a little bit. Like you said, Sturm's exactly what you said, Ian. He said that the mentality wasn't there going into the game. He said it's always tough when the opponent is missing or scratching guys, but those ones that came into play in Nashville, they outworked Boston. That's what Sturm said. Boston has had games like this before. It goes back to early in the season. Towards the end of October, they lost 7-5 to Anaheim. Sturm laid into them after that game, and then they went on a 17-8 run, I believe, since that October loss to Anaheim. Then they hit a skid again mid-December, towards the end of December. It actually lasted until New Year's Eve. They lost 6 in a row. What happened after that is they went on an 11-3 run in the month of January. Right before the Olympic break, they suffered 2 losses in a row in shootouts on the road against Florida, Tampa. Long story short, since the start of the new year, the Bees are 13-7. All 7 losses were on the road, and almost half of those losses came in overtime shootout. I'm not expecting Washington to lay down and surrender, but I think that Dowd and Carlson, like you mentioned, those trades were a bit eye-opening for them. And I think Ovi said that was like one of the worst days of his life, which is kind of crazy to say, but that is what he said. At the end of the day, they're still very much capable of grabbing any of the last 2 wild card spots. Now, is it going to happen? Probably not, but it's not going to be an easy game for Boston. It's likely going to be a close game, but I trust Boston this season after certain losses, and that loss to Nashville qualifies as one of those losses. I've also seen Washington over the years in these early matinee games, and they are generally lethargic, and it takes them a minute to get going. I'm not expecting that out of Boston. I'm expecting them to be pretty on top of things out of the gate, and they're used to these matinee games. And after that performance against Nashville, it should be a good opening 20 minutes for them. And just real quick with the Bruins home record, 23-8-1. They've also been excellent against the Eastern Conference, 20-11 overall, 15-6 at home, and 7-1-1 as a favorite against the Eastern Conference. So we just got to roll Boston here, money line.
I think he was being a little dramatic, but I think a lot of it was real emotion, Manny, with what Ovi said. I think like 12 years he's been there with the Capitals. They've gone through a lot of times. Like you're a brotherhood. You're like a family, when you're in a hockey team and you've been teammates for that long. So when someone gets traded away and no longer there, you feel it. It's painful, no question, with the bond and the relationships you form over the years. But I think it felt a little over the top with the way he explained it, saying one of the worst days of my life. I don't know about that. One of the worst days of my life would be for me, like losing a family member to death. One of the worst days of my life would be me getting my ass kicked on the betting board, as bad as I've ever lost on a given day. That's one of the worst days of my life. One of the worst days of Ovechkin's life, maybe losing game 7 of a playoff series in overtime. You could say maybe that's the worst day. Saying this is the worst day of your life, but maybe if he truly feels that way, he's got it the right to say that, if that's the way he truly feels. But yeah, John Carlson had been there for a long time. And like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But yeah, as far as this game, we're both liking Boston. I mean, prop wise, there's a little value with Arvidsson. I keep betting him every game because he's on the top line. The prices are so good, and I still say that about Marat Husnudinov. As long as he stays up there with Lindholm and Pasternak, there's really, really good value in my opinion with him. Arvidsson on the second line might be worth a look as well. One thing to note here, we've got as far as goals of late. I'm just looking at who's been in good form. Dubois, PLD for Washington's actually been in good form. He scored in 3 of the last 5 games, so at plus 350, he's probably the one I like here is from a value standpoint on the Washington side. Geeky scored last game. Like I said, Arvidsson scored last game, but Arvidsson and maybe Middlestat scored in 2 of the last 5, but more so Arvidsson and Husnudinov are my favorite goal prop looks as far as Boston. And I think Washington, my favorite would be, as I mentioned, PLD. He's kind of feeling it right now. It's Logan Thompson for Washington, Jeremy Swayman. Logan Thompson for Washington, Jeremy Swayman for Boston in net. So, like I said, definitely not surprising there that we've got a Swayman and Thompson goaltending matchup here in this one. You're too rough on Sean McDonough, Jarek. I know he's not as good with hockey as he is football, but he's not that bad. He's actually gotten a little bit better, I think, over the years. But Bob Wischusen's my favorite when it comes to guys for hockey on ESPN. And I think Bob Wischusen's doing this next game, New York Rangers and New Jersey Devils. We've got New Jersey minus 160, home favorites, 5.5 the total here in this one. Yeah, I'm on over 5.5. I just feel it's 2 teams out of the playoffs. Not much defensive intensity. We haven't seen it from the Rangers the last couple games. And I know Shesterkin's in net. That hasn't stopped the last 2 Rangers games from flying way over the total. The Columbus game, the Toronto game the other night. I mean, it's just defensive intensity is lacking post-trade deadline when you're selling off and you're not making the playoffs. And I think you could say the same thing about New Jersey. That was a bit of a pace-driven up-and-down affair against Toronto in their last game earlier this week. So it's just a straightforward late-season handicap. 2 teams out of the playoffs. I'm interested at 5, especially at 5.5 being offered as the total. I'm interested in looking over in this one. A small bet too on the draw. I could see this being pretty close. It's still a rivalry with these 2 teams, even though obviously they've had disappointing seasons. So over and a small bet on the draw for me here. Mikey, what do you think? New York Rangers, New Jersey Devils.
Yeah, you have a bottom of the barrel matchup in the Metro Division. I don't have too much on this. It's just tough to lay a price like this on New Jersey at -160. I don't trust either team. And do you really want to lay the price with New Jersey? They're 4-12 overall versus the division this season, and 1-6 at home versus the division. So it's an easy pass because I can't lay -160, not with that record, not with New Jersey. I mean, if I had a free bet, I'd probably honestly take it on the Rangers at this plus money price, but you can't trust them either. So it's an easy pass.
Yeah, certainly a pass for me from a side perspective. I mean, I'm not that interested in the Rangers. I'd lean Rangers. It's one of these deals where I'd lean whoever was plus 140 in this game. You know, if it was the Devils, I'd lean Devils plus 140, but it's the Rangers, so I lean to them plus 140. But like I said, definitely, is this true? I saw someone mention this earlier. Is that true that that Taylor Radish's father did die? Oh, that's terrible, man. And Darren Radish, for that matter. Darren and Taylor Radish, two brothers. Darren plays for the Lightning, of course. Taylor with the Rangers. Yeah, that's awful news. He lost his battle with, I'm just seeing it now. Yeah, lost his battle with cancer. That's a little emotional type of thing that a team deals with in the dressing room, you know, with a teammate going through a family, you know, loss of a family member, a tragedy like that. You know, it could be a rally the troops game for the Rangers, you know, rally around their teammate, you know, in a spot like this. I haven't heard anything about whether he's going to be at bereavement leave or anything for Taylor Radish for this. But at the moment, I'm just looking at it. At the moment he's in the lineup. I don't know if that's going to change right now. This could be one of these deals, too, where we've seen it before with Mark Scheifele of the Winnipeg Jets, other players that when they lose their dad, it's almost like the best medicine and the best way to deal with the loss and this and just the sadness of it all is just to go out there and play a hockey game, you know. And I remember Scheifele saying that my dad would want me to play, you know, and want me to be in this game. So, like I said, that's something that's to factor in the back of your mind. It doesn't mean the Rangers are going to win the game, but you know, I could see them playing hard now, and if Taylor Radish is going to take the ice with them and be in the lineup here. So very, very tragic. Thoughts and prayers and condolences to the Radish family. But cancer's vicious, man. It's relentless. That's why we have to keep working at research and funding, you know, to keep looking at you know, ways that we can treat this disease and prevent it for people. There's not much I like here as far as goal props, other than to say I think Gabe Perreault is the one I like. And maybe because of the emotions if he plays Taylor Radish. And Taylor Radish actually I think has scored recently for them. But Gabe Perreault on the top line, there's some solid value. I think if I were to suggest anyone for New Jersey, I'd go Connor Brown and Gritschuk on the second line with Jack Hughes. And maybe because there's value and he's on the top line, Dawson Mercer for New Jersey. All right, next up, we've got the Keystone State battle. Philadelphia Flyers, Pittsburgh Penguins. We've got Pittsburgh -135 home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. This is the Philly angle. I don't know if we've seen the Philly angle for a little bit, but this is Philadelphia off a loss of 0 goals or fewer. Shutout loss, of course, against Utah in their last game. Still overall for the season, their games have trended over the total in these situations. And again, you're dealing with a 5.5 here with a Flyers team off a shutout loss. I've got Pittsburgh Pirates in there. You know what's funny? I've got Canada baseball on in front of me on one of the TVs. World Baseball Classic with Canada. They're playing right now, and I've got baseball on the brain. Pittsburgh Penguins. There we go. So yeah, Philly angle, 1 goal or fewer this season, off a loss of 1 goal or fewer. They've been very good as far as an over in the next game. I think when you look at Pittsburgh too, little bounce back offensively for them. Dan Vladar is very good. That's the one fear. He's been playing very good, but he doesn't have the greatest numbers and track record recently against Pittsburgh. I think he's got a 3.1 goals against, and he's 1-3 or something in the last few starts against Pittsburgh. So he has had some struggles, Dan Vladar, against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Meanwhile, Stuart Skinner, probably in net for Pittsburgh. He's not been that sharp lately. I mean, he hasn't been awful, but he hasn't been good. I mean, he's kind of been mediocre, average, if that. And that's a little bit concerning here. And usually with Rick Tocchet, this team doesn't want to play high-scoring games, and they've been playing some unders lately, Philadelphia. But now that they've been shut out and they lose 3-0, I think now they push a little bit more for offense today. in this game against Pittsburgh. So I did play over 5.5, and I did play the draw here as well, simply because we've seen some history between these rivals of competitive games, still mutual dislike. We could see overtime. We have seen multiple draws the last 5 or 6 head-to-head games between these state rivals. So there you go with the draw. I think it's worth a shot here in this one. Yeah, that's some Pens 5 straight unders, Flyers 8 straight unders, Jonathan. You're right. I'm kind of going against that, but the Philly angle's in play, so I'm on it today, this 5.5 over. Again, not my favorite look on the board, but I'm on it. Mikey, what do you think here? Philly, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, no Crosby, no Malkin, who's second on the team.
5-game suspension. Yes, thanks, Jarek. Yeah, absolutely should have mentioned that. 5-game suspension, so no Evgeny Malkin today.
Yeah, so no Crosby, no Malkin, who's second on the team in points. 2-game skid where they scored a total of 2 goals. So we'll see who steps up for the Pens today and how they look with 2 of their superstars, the face of the franchises, out of the lineup. I mean, the Keystone rivalry is always a fun watch. It would be better if Philly was in a playoff spot, but it is what it is. I don't expect any Tocchet-led group to just wave the white flag and not play the game the right way, especially off a shutout loss and now playing your in-state rival. I'm just expecting a better effort, obviously, especially after a shutout. It's not brain surgery to think the team's going to come out with a better effort. So I think Philly is going to come out with a better effort. One thing I noticed about Pittsburgh, when they play at home against Philly, they just seem to find the back of the net a lot. The last 4 games at home, 6-5, 7-7 total Pens goals. Last 4 home games versus Philly, that's an average of 6.25.
That's another thing that drew me to the over, Mikey. 4 straight overs in the Berg between these 2 teams. Yep.
And I'm wondering why they dropped it down to 5.5, but no Crosby, no Malkin, and they're both on an under streak. So I see why it went down to 5.5, but you rarely ever see 5.5s when Philly and the Pens meet. But yeah, a couple things that favor Pitt is how great they've played versus the Metro Division this season. They're 11-1-6 overall against the Metro and 7-1-2 at home versus the Metro. And as a favorite, they're 3-0-4. So they've done very well overall against the Metro Division, especially at home. Pitt probably finds a way. I just don't know if I want to lay that price. It's just right now, it's just very tough to bet Philly overs lately. 6 straight Philly games haven't sniffed more than 5 goals, but I think we see this game actually closer to 6+ goals because it's always a high-scoring affair when they meet up in the Igloo. But at the end of the day, you're missing 40 goals, 66 assists, and 106 points from this Penguins lineup. I mean, that's just too much, which is probably why we're seeing a 5.5 right now. But I do lean over. I just haven't pulled the trigger on anything yet.
No, that's like I said, it's just basically the games in Pittsburgh flying over and the Philly angle where the off a loss where they've scored 1 goal or fewer, they've trended very heavily to the over this season. So that's why I decided to go ahead with it. As far as, and like I said, for Pittsburgh, from a side perspective, I could only back Philly at this price, especially with no Malkin, and I kind of want to fade Pittsburgh moving forward. I just don't know if this is the right day to do it. Let's also keep in mind that even though it might look like, here we go, Pittsburgh's going to start to fall off here, and they've lost 2 in a row, but let's keep in mind, whoever the 2 losses, in Boston, where they never lose lately, and Buffalo, who's been, red hot. So it's not like it's 2 losses to, St. Louis or somebody, St. Louis or one of the Chicago, one of the lesser lights. Like they've lost to Boston, who's been amazing, lights out at TD Garden, in Boston, and then Buffalo. So it's not exactly a sure sign that, Pittsburgh's really fallen off the cliff here. If they lose this game, we might start thinking that, but we'll see if they do. And plus, you would think off 2 losses in a row, they'll be fully focused on trying to bounce back here and right the ship against their in-state rival, Philadelphia. As far as props for this game, there's not a lot here for me as far as props, but I will say Shinikov and Hayes I'm going to look at for Pittsburgh on the top line with Novak. It looks like that's what we're looking at is for the top line here today. So Shinikov and my guy from the Hamilton Bulldogs years ago, Avery Hayes, could be worth a look there as far as props on their side. For Philadelphia coming into this game, streaky player, but, Matvei Mishkov maybe. And Noah Cates is an interesting consideration here. He's actually scored twice in the last 4 games for Philadelphia. So those would be a couple that I'd maybe be looking at here for props on their side in this one. All right, this is the last of the afternoon games for Saturday coming up. Nashville and Buffalo We've got Buffalo, it looks like minus 170, home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game, shaded to the under. I mean, the Sabres team just there's never any letdown spot. There's never any flat spot for them lately. I mean, it's just been very impressive. They just keep motoring along, finding ways to win. They lost right before the Olympic break to Pittsburgh, and they come out of the Olympic break 5-0. And look, the schedule hasn't been exactly an easy schedule either. You know, they played Florida when Florida was still, had some semblance of playoff hopes. Tampa Bay, Vegas, a Pittsburgh team that's in the playoff spot. So it's been a pretty, it's not been a bunch of 5 wins here for Buffalo against a bunch of also-rans, a bunch of cupcakes. That hasn't been the case. They've beaten some good competition. These are quality wins that Buffalo's been able to get. We'll see if they keep it going here against Nashville. Nashville, it looked like they were fading out of it. They had gone 1-5 in their last 6 games, but they did snap the losing streak. And like I said, that was more bad Boston in my mind than good Nashville the other night. But still, Nashville, give them some credit, 6-3. But boy, the Bruins were awful in that game. It's going to be a bit of a different challenge here. This is an 11-18 road team this year, the Nashville Predators. So I'm not overthinking it again with Buffalo. I've got a split here. Buffalo in regulation, minus 108, and Buffalo team total over 3.5, minus 105. I've got a little bit of both here in this one with the Predators and the Sabres. As of now, it looks like UC Saros and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen are the projected starting goaltenders. Neither one confirmed yet. Ryan O'Reilly still at the moment day-to-day as well for the Nashville Predators. He missed the game against Boston. We'll see if he returns tonight, but as of now, day-to-day and unsure of his status here for this game against the Sabres. Mikey, what do you think here, Nashville-Buffalo?
Yeah, I know they're in the Atlantic, and it's against Boston law to like or root for anyone outside of the Bruins, and I've been following that since my mom gave birth to me back in the 80s. But with that said, I cannot wait to watch playoff hockey in Buffalo. I mean, aren't we all? We're all waiting for this Buffalo collapse. It just hasn't come. Watching this team in October, November, it was the same old story. Then December rolls around, still not a good start to the month, 1-3, and then boom, a switch hits, 10 straight wins to end the month of December. Then January, they go 10-5. February, they go 4-2. We keep waiting for a losing streak or a letdown spot. It just hasn't happened. This team is 100% determined and focused to play 60-minute hockey, game in and game out the right way, and make a playoff spot. With that said, it's just a little bit expensive right now to lay the price on Buffalo. You could do reg, you could do -1. I still might do that. I just can't figure out this Nashville team. If it wasn't for such a brutal start to the season, they'd be in a wild card spot right now. They're still only 3 points back. They still have a handful of great players and a goalie that can lock it down when he's focused. They may have traded some pieces, but a lot of the key pieces are still there. And with only Seattle and Utah in their way, I'm still expecting.
That is true. I mean, if you're Nashville, why not give it a shot? Push for the playoffs. See what you can see if you can somehow get in. It won't be easy, but see if you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, you only have Seattle and Utah in your way. I'm still expecting Nash to play good hockey at the end of the year. Also, there's a new GM coming to town for Nashville, and a lot of these players like living and playing in Nashville. They don't all necessarily want to leave. So those are a couple of reasons why I would be hesitant at fading Nashville or laying a heavy price to bet against them. Now, if you are on Buffalo, they've been excellent this season versus the Western Conference, 14-7 overall, and they're 7-3-2 at home versus the West. So right now it's a pass for me, but I understand why if you're on Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm on. It's obviously I have to go. I'm not obviously ever going to take a team -170, so I went with just a regulation team total over split here in this one. Like I said, I can't go crazy about Nashville beating Boston. Boston stinks on the road. Boston was terrible in that game. Step up and win this game. I'll be impressed. That's where I am here with Nashville going into this game. As far as props go, going to go back to the well. He's still on the top line. Peyton Krebs with Thompson and Tuck. I like the Zucker-McLeod unit, has been very good lately. Josh Norris is starting to really heat up for the Sabres as well. So those are some goal props on their side I'd be interested in for sure. I'm going to stick with, I don't think he should be a number one center, but he is a number one center, and he can be capable to put the puck in the net. And that's Eric Howla. I'd probably look as far as a goal prop there on the Nashville side. here in this game. So that's a little something to keep an eye on there. But yeah, those are the main props there for me with the Nashville and Buffalo game. All right, next up, we've got Montreal, Los Angeles. The rest of the games are night games, Saturday night games, starting here with the Canadiens and the Kings. LA minus 120 home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. This is the very first bet I made on this card, over 5.5. Minus 130 is still out there with the over at DraftKings. This is overs with the Kings until some adjustment is made. This is 2 games now since DJ Smith took over after the firing of Jim Hiller. They're playing a friggin' fire wagon pace. I mean, up and down, trading chances. Defense is still a big problem for the LA Kings right now. They're giving up too much odd man rushes, too many odd man rushes, too many rush chances against. And gosh, if you're going to play up and down hockey against a team like Montreal, they have their own defensive issues right now. And people are saying, well, after a game like last night, don't you have to really tighten it up and play a real low-scoring, conservative, low-event game? Yeah, they were supposed to play like that after the San Jose game, and they didn't play that way. They had this kind of a game against San Jose as well earlier this week. 7-5, San Jose beat them. Weren't you supposed to fucking tighten it up after that? They didn't. And it was another up and down game last night. Plus, there's no friggin' time to practice. It's not like Marty St. Louis can work on defensive principles and defensive structure and fundamentals. Not when you're playing this many games on this road trip, 3rd and 4 nights, back-to-back, 22-hour turnaround, by the way, because that game in Anaheim last night was 9 Eastern. Now they're playing at 7 p.m. Eastern. What a horrible, unfair scheduling disadvantage but that the NHL has thrown at Montreal here at this point in time. But it's Crimea River. They're doing this to all teams with the scheduling this year. Every team's had bad schedule spots. This is a really bad one for Montreal. I could only look at Los Angeles in this spot. I'm kind of tempted to take the Kings here. Minus 120. I mean, they lost the first game with DJ against Colorado, but again, Colorado's Colorado against the New York Islanders. They played real hard in both games, the Kings. Even in the loss against Colorado, they played really hard. This young group played with great energy. They're still, like I said, they're playing a trading chances game because DJ Smith wants them to be more aggressive offensively. And, they got away with it against the Islanders. They still gave up 3 goals and a lot of shots, but they scored 5. That's why they were able to win that game. But if they're going to play this kind of pace upgrade that we've seen in 2 games since the coaching change, gosh, you got to think Montreal is going to get their share of chances and possibly goals here as well. So I think it's just goals both ways. It's an over by Fecta for me. First period and full game with a little bit more on the full game here, over 5.5. Minus 130. Mikey, what do you think here? Montreal, LA.
Yeah, that was my initial look. Once I saw it last night that 5.5 was available, I wanted to lock it in, but I ended up chickening out. I know you mentioned it, but Montreal, they've allowed 13 goals during this 2-game skid. So anytime I see that, I'm hesitant to bet the over the next game because, of course, you're going to think there should be an emphasis tonight on locking it down, but they don't have the goalies to do it. And you just played a very heavy game that went to overtime shootout. You had to battle back just to lose in a shootout, almost 40 total hits. Montreal is going to be tired at the end of this game. They say the back-to-backs in Alberta are tough. Well, the back-to-backs in Southern California are tough. Those LA Anaheim games, they are not easy. So I think Montreal is going to be tired at the end of this one. Overs in Montreal games and back-to-backs, I believe they're 7-3 this season. It's an absolute over games when the second games of back-to-back. So, Kings are trending over with the coaching change. This should have 6 or more goals. I just feel that in Kings home games, you generally can let the clock bleed for a minute or 2 and you can get a better number. But it's hard to take that risk lately with Montreal being involved with what they're doing between the pipes. So I am leaning the over as well. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it yet.
Yeah, I'm probably going to add LA team total over 3.5 as well. I feel better about that than the money line because I think they're going to give up some goals too. I don't think they're shutting down Montreal, not playing this style of hockey. There's still way too many grade A scoring chances that the Kings have given up in these 2 games. Since the coaching change took place. And that's a recipe for not always winning. It's a recipe for scoring. It's not a recipe always for winning. Because I could see this being 5-4 Montreal. So if you bet LA money line, you lose, but you end up cashing the team total over, which is, I always say that. If I don't trust you defensively, I'm not going to take you on the money line. I'm just going to go to and pivot to your team total instead. That's kind of the way I feel right here with the LA Kings tonight in this matchup. Obviously, with Sam Montembeault starting last night, we should see Jakub Dobiš, and it was another rough night for Montembeault. But they're not helping their goalies out either. Like, let's not the blue line and the defensive structure of the entire team is to blame as well here for Montreal. But it should be Jakub Dobiš tonight. We expect Darcy Kemper in net. There's still some injuries, of course. Byfield day-to-day, Armia, Fiala, Kuzmenko still on IR for the LA Kings going into this game tonight. So keep that in mind. Prop-wise for this game, there's still some looks that I am interested in. In a game we think there should be some goals. There's probably some value with Slavkovsky on the top line for the Montreal Canadiens. It was a bad night for the Kapanen, Newhook, Demidov line last night. They had a bit of a rough night overall. We'll see if they bounce back. And Kapanen had his ice time severely cut down last night in that game. Otherwise, I'd probably take a goal prop with him because I've mentioned him quite a bit of late. And then on the LA Kings side, I would say Laferriere. I thought his game was pretty good the other night, playing with Turcotte and Moore, Panarin, Kopitar, Kempe. It's starting to look like there's finally starting to be some chemistry right now with Kopitar, Kempe, and Panarin right now for this team. We will see the debut of Scott Laughton, it looks like. He is in the line. It looks like he'll be in the lineup and will make his Kings debut. And they've got Scott Laughton with Jared Wright and Taylor Ward at the moment, Jeff Malott, Kenny Connors, and another new King, Matthew Joseph, who they traded for as well. Mikey Anderson, Drew Doughty, Joel Edmondson, Brant Clark, Brian Dumoulin, Cody Ceci, the six here for the LA Kings. So, like I said, I like the team total element of it for the LA Kings, but the favorite bets here for me are first period, full game over for sure.
Sorry to interrupt, is that Dobiš thing still a thing that Jonathan was tracking? First goal?
It's slowed down a bit. He hasn't been. By the way, it's 9 straight wins for LA over Montreal. So you talk about dominance. The Kings have owned the Montreal Canadiens of late. But yeah, it's slowed down. He's not Mr. Automatic to give up the first goal of the game, at least of late. So that's definitely something to keep in mind here with the first goal props that we've mentioned quite a bit as far as when Dobiš is in net. All right, Vancouver, Winnipeg. We've got Winnipeg minus 260, home favorites, 6 the total. Shaded to the under here in this game. We've got the Winnipeg Jets off a nice win against Tampa, back-to-back wins for the Winnipeg Jets. You know, I think it's still too little too late as far as getting into the playoffs. But, you know, there is still, and I know they traded Logan Stanley and Luke Shen, obviously, to Buffalo, but there is still enough talent with this group. They're 7 points out right now. Like, they'd have to go on a red-hot, scorching heater to get back into the race and get into the playoffs. But they've got still a good enough roster to make a run, to at least win some games down the stretch. Now, I am still worried about Josh Morrissey. Actually, Josh Morrissey's back now, which is huge. So that's even a bigger plus. Josh Morrissey's back and ready to return. Still without Pionk on IR, but Morrissey, your best defenseman's coming back. You know, they do have a potential to make a run here. Oh, yeah, that's right, Jonathan. Yeah, shouldn't have even forgotten about it. But, yeah, Mr. Saturday Night, Cole Caulfield. You got to sprinkle on the over 1.5 goals. I don't even just bet him to score. Just go right to the value, over 1.5 goals with Cole Caulfield. He's had multiple 2-goal performances on Saturday nights, including last week. So, yeah, we got to sprinkle on the over 1.5 goals. In fact, Alex used that as a bargain bin on a Saturday night with Cole Caulfield. So, yeah, got to bet that. I agree. This one with Vancouver and Winnipeg, you know, can Winnipeg get 4 goals tonight? Because I kind of lean to the Jets team total over. I mean, this Vancouver team is just, it's rough for them defensively. Like, it really, really is. They're not stopping anybody from scoring right now. They did get a win last night against Chicago. We'll give them some credit for that. 4-3 last night over the Blackhawks. And they did hold Chicago to 3 goals, which is a step in the right direction, I guess you could say, for the actually it was 6-3, right? 6-3 it ended last night for Vancouver over Chicago. But nevertheless, they held Chicago to 3. But that being said, it'll be harder here on a back-to-back spot. Winnipeg starting to gain, a little bit of confidence. I think Lankinen's going to start here tonight because it was Tolopilo last night. Connor Hellebuck's already been confirmed for Winnipeg. So I'm kind of interested in the Jets team total here. The price isn't great. On it, I will admit. We're looking at minus 140 or so with the Jets team total over. But if I were to play something in a game that I don't love, that would be it. What do you think, Mikey? Vancouver, Winnipeg?
Yeah, it's just, it's too expensive, obviously, to back Winnipeg. I don't really have anything on this one. I just simply passed due to, I don't trust Vancouver, and I just didn't know a way to bet Winnipeg that's not going to get you, a minus number. So it's an easy pass.
All right, there you go. Easy pass for Mikey here with this one. Prop-wise in this game, how about that call of mine? Of course, I forgot to bet it. And I felt so angry after. I said Morgan Barron, just for some reason, he scores against Tampa Bay, and he got one of their goals the other night. I forgot to bet the damn thing. I forgot to bet Morgan Barron to score, but I hope somebody did because, like I said, it's just for some reason Morgan Barron has been someone that scored against Tampa Bay. As far as props, Besser and Scheifele, Brock Besser, Mark Scheifele have both scored in consecutive games for their respective teams heading into this one. Gabe Velarde's picked it up lately. Cole Perfetti is someone else maybe to look at. Maybe we should sprinkle Morgan Barron again because that's now 2 of the last 5 games he scored for the Winnipeg Jets, even though he's down on the 4th line. So there's a couple of props that I'd be interested in there. For Vancouver, I would say Höglander with Pettersson and DeBrusk, there's value as far as – and Drew O'Connor. I keep seeing Drew O'Connor find ways to chip in offensively for Vancouver. So those would be a couple Canuck goal props that I'd be looking at on their side in this one. All right, we continue along. This is a good matchup here. East versus West, and 2 teams that need points. Utah Mammoth, Columbus Blue Jackets. We've got Utah minus 115 road favorites in this game. The total here sitting at, looks like a 6 shaded to the over here in this game. Utah, I mean, this is a team that's had problems throughout the course of the season winning on the road. They don't have a good road record, but boy, have they started the road trip very nicely. Back-to-back road wins here for the Utah Mammoth. They beat Washington to start the road trip early in the week by a score of 3-2, and they followed that up with a very nice shutout win, 3-0 over the Philadelphia Flyers. So a nice 2-0 start to this road trip. That being said, Columbus probably better than those 2 teams and probably the toughest game that they will have played here on this road trip so far. There's a couple things I like. At this price with a great 17-8-5 home record for Columbus, I'm on Columbus here minus 105. I don't mind anymore that when I see Elvis Merzlikins in net because under Rick Bowness, he's been better in between the pipes for the Blue Jackets than he was before that. So I like Columbus here minus 105. I think this is you won 2 in a row on the road, but you've done it against some sketchy competition. This will be a little bit tougher, I think, for the Mammoth here tonight in this game. Vimelka's confirmed in net for them. But I like Columbus here in this spot at home at this price, especially cheap, even money, minus 105 price. But what I like even just as much, actually, I like this draw. This is a great draw situation between these 2 teams. 3 straight meetings between Utah and Columbus, all of them since the franchise relocated from Arizona to Utah. All 3 of them went past regulation, and all of them 3-2 final score. Columbus with 3-2 victories in Utah, and Utah with a 3-2 victory in Columbus. So all 3 games, though, going past regulation. Columbus, 2 of the last 4 games post-Olympic break have gone past regulation. Utah hasn't gone into overtime in some time, but Columbus has gone to OT a couple times. And again, 3 straight head-to-heads between them have gone past regulation. So it's a really good draw spot in my mind here for Utah and Columbus. So I'm in on that. And you can find that. You could still get pretty solid prices. Again, the offshore book Pinnacle, usually the place where I can get the better prices right now currently on draw bets, and you can get plus 320 there with the draw. Mikey, what do you think here? Utah, Columbus.
Yeah, I wish I can predict which version of Elvis we are going to get tonight. The one that was solid for the first several starts when Bones took over behind the bench, or the one that just allowed 7 goals against the Rangers and Bruins in his last couple starts. So that's my only reason why I haven't locked in Columbus. It seems like a very, very short price for Columbus at home. And I believe they're getting Werenski and Marchment back. Garland's making his debut, and they're still minus 102 or whatever they are on DraftKings. And let's not forget, this Utah team just got blanked by Chicago not too long ago. So I'm not really understanding the line, especially if Werenski, Marchment are in and Garland's going to make his debut. So I'm going to see what continues to happen with this line, but I'm definitely going to likely grab Columbus, especially once it's confirmed that Werenski and Marchment are in. I'll take Columbus at -102 all day.
There you go. Good stuff. As far as that goes, like it. And when you look at this situation too, like I said, I think definitely when it comes to, you're right about, I'm looking at the lineup. You're right. Zach Werenski's back. Mason Marchment's in. They're both, Werenski back on the top pair. Mason Marchment back with Fantilli and Marchenko on the top line. I think Mason Marchment goal prop might be worth a look as well. Connor Garland on the second line with Sean Monahan and Kent Johnson as well. Kent Johnson, by the way, I think he's looked a little bit better after being those 2 healthy scratches. So I think Kent Johnson, Connor Garland, maybe to find the back of the net in his debut. I like props with them. Marchment on the top line for Columbus as well. I think if I were to go with anyone on the Utah side, Gunther's been feeling it lately. He's back with Schmaltz and Keller, Krause with Cooley and Peterka. So it could be worthy of consideration. And maybe sneaky down the lineup is Michael Carcone. He's a streaky scorer, and he's been able to pot a couple of goals of late here for Utah. So he might be worth a look. All right, next up, we've got Tampa Bay and Toronto. We've got the Lightning -200 here, road favorites. The total here sitting at 6.5 across the board. This is a full-blown slump now for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And it's concerning. Vasilevsky's he was a brick wall during the crazy streak he had, and he's been very shaky. Like he couldn't corral the fucking puck the other night against Minnesota, put the oven mitts on it, and just squeak. Like he's having those kind of brain farts and unfortunate moments right now, and some suspect goals have gone in on him. And I don't think he was great by any stretch of the imagination against Winnipeg when they lost to the Jets the other night. This is 4 straight losses. They're in a slump right now. But my gosh, if they're ever going to bust out of it, you'd think maybe here against this downtrodden Leafs team that just got trucked by the Rangers of all teams. It's hard to just fall apart against the New York Rangers at MSG, where they've been horrible all year. The Leafs managed to do that with a terrible third period, end up losing to the Rangers 6-2. I mean, in theory, it's supposed to be a slam Tampa Bay tonight in this game, in this spot. But it's not easy to do that. There's a disconnect going on with them. That's just something's not right at the moment. It's not like this is a great bargain to bet Tampa Bay by any stretch of the imagination, but there's very little faith or confidence I have in Toronto right now. So it's probably still some kind of look to the Lightning. If I'm still mulling over what I'm going to do here in this game. It's Vasilevsky back in net for the Lightning. Anthony Stolarz confirmed here for the Leafs. And by the way, there's still some injuries too. Gonzalez, Dominic James, Nick Paul still dealing with injuries right now for the Tampa Bay Lightning. What I'm most likely to get involved with is maybe a Tampa Bay first goal, first period, or a Tampa Bay first period puck line. I don't know about the full game because there's not great value, but I could see that coming through. Team total over, I'd prefer that too with Tampa Bay rather than the -200. And maybe that is something to consider, because when you look at it from a defensive standpoint for the Toronto Maple Leafs now, 6 goals allowed to the Rangers, 4 goals allowed to New Jersey, 5 goals to Ottawa, 5 goals to Florida, 5 to Tampa Bay when they played down in the Bay a couple weeks ago right after the Olympic break ended. So really, other than Philly, Toronto's given up 4 goals or more in 5 of the 6 games out of the Olympic break. So yeah, I'm probably going to twist my arm and talk myself into Lightning team total over, maybe a couple of those first period looks, first goal, first period puck line. I mean, this is an opponent this is supposed to be the opponent that is the elixir that cures the woes, cures the streak, the slump, I should say, for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's supposed to be that way. We'll see if it is. You do have to factor in too with this Tampa losing streak, which has hit 4 games. Carolina, Buffalo, Minnesota. Yeah, you can quibble Winnipeg's not the greatest loss, 4-1, but the Jets have more talent, I think, than their record. And the other 3 losses for Tampa during this losing streak were great teams: Carolina, Buffalo, Minnesota. So, it's not like you can go too crazy reprimanding Tampa Bay for this slump. So feels like the spot they get out of it. We'll see if that is indeed the case. Mikey, what do you think here? Lightning, Leafs.
Yeah, like you said, 4-game skid for Tampa, which you don't see too often, but in years past, we do see Tampa sometimes in March and April go through this prior to the playoffs. But still, this is a little bit different this year because the first week of March just ended and we still have 22 games to play. So this is a little different. Offense has hit a standstill, only 2 goals in their last 2 games. But again, these things happen. Small skids happen. Offenses dry up because prior to this skid, they were automatic for 4+ goals a game, and they scored that. And they still scored that in 6 out of their last 10. They do have 4 or more goals. Tomorrow, Toronto's in a similar boat, 6-game skid, haven't won since coming back from the break, traded away players yesterday. The difference is I know Tampa can snap out of it. I can't say the same for Toronto. But even though Toronto has had Tampa's number lately, winning 7 out of the last 10, I feel like this is a live game. Whether it's live to bet the over, whether it's live to take Tampa if Toronto wants to take a 1-0 lead. But this is a wait-and-see game, live bet kind of game for me.
All right, nothing wrong with that. Like I said, sometimes it's just good to wait and see what occurs during the game. You want to make sure Tampa Bay, I get what you're thinking, Mikey, as far as let's see if Tampa Bay comes out storming. We'd like to think they will, but let's actually see it because, in theory, this is supposed to be a spot where this is a downtrodden Leafs team and you've lost 4 in a row. You've got to stop the bleeding, especially now that Buffalo has caught you for first in the division. Now, Tampa's still got a couple games in hand over the Sabres, but still, I mean, it's still going to be a tough race now, and Buffalo doesn't seem to be slowing down right now. So in theory, this is supposed to be a spot where Tampa Bay brings it. We'll see if that's the case. Do I dare bet Matias Maccelli to score for Toronto? Because I'm telling you what, it's plus 400, and he scored in back-to-back games for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He suddenly found the back of the net. So Easton Cowan, I'm going back to the well as well, plus 430. He's getting finally the ice time he should be getting, especially after all these trades. So Easton Cowan, I like as far as a goal prop for Toronto. I would say Bjorkstrand. I'm going to be stubborn and keep going back to Oliver Bjorkstrand for Tampa Bay. Corey Perry, by the way, will make his Tampa Bay debut. And I might sprinkle on Corey Perry. Corey Perry loves scoring against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It really doesn't matter who he plays. So if he's in the lineup, and all things are pointing to the fact that he will make his return to the Tampa Bay Lightning here tonight, that he might be worth a look because he just seems to score against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I would say Bjorkstrand and Perry for Tampa, and I would say Cowan and Maccelli for goal props for Toronto here in this game. I'm also going to target a live over and an in-game over 1.5 first period, full game over. I'm not going to bet it now. I don't love it at the 6.5. I'm going to see if I can wait to see if that drops to 5.5 if possible in game. All right, we've got 3 games left. They're all late games, the West Coast games tonight. Remember, too, this is spring forward night. We put the clocks ahead 1 hour, so make sure you do that. Make sure you're with us tomorrow at the right time, noon Eastern. All right, make sure you're aware of that. So we go forward 1 hour tonight, but we will be at noon Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow with the Sunday show. We got Carolina, Calgary. Carolina minus 200, road favorites. Total here sitting at 5.5 across the board here in this game. Carolina back-to-back, big 6-3 win against Edmonton last night. Back-to-back situation now against the Calgary Flames. Calgary played hard against Ottawa the other night. It was a 4-1 loss, but it was a closer game than the final score would indicate. Dustin Wolf already confirmed in net for the Flames. We expect Brandon Bussey to be in net here for Carolina. It was Freddie Anderson last night, so pretty good indication it'll be Brandon Bussey here tonight in this game. This is one I don't have too much on. I mean, this is more of I'm going to wait to see what we get in game. I mean, Carolina has won 4 straight against Calgary. 3 of them have been unders, by the way. It's worth mentioning. The last 2, though, in Carolina, Calgary has taken them to overtime. So, including earlier this year, back in November, Calgary's lost 4 in a row. The offense has completely gone stone cold. 2 goals or fewer for this Flames team in 4 straight games. Not going to bet anything pregame, but I'll throw out a lean here, especially with Bussey. And now Bussey, I've talked about this earlier in the week, that maybe the Olympic break came at a bad time for him. Like he's given up 4 goals in each of his last 2 starts. That being said, he still had a very good season. He's now facing a Calgary offense that's been pretty dormant lately. I think I'll throw out a lean here to Calgary team total under 2.5, which you can get at around -120. I think that is something I could get behind here in this game if I were to bet something. A game I don't love, but I'll lean Flames team total under. Mikey, what do you think here? Carolina, Calgary.
Yeah, nothing locked in. If there's anything I would consider, it would just be the team total for Carolina, over 3.5. You know, Calgary's allowed 10 goals in their last 2 games. They just lost Kadri. I mean, obviously no Rasmus Anderson. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Nothing locked in, but I'm leaning towards Carolina over team total over 3.5.
Yeah, it could be one of these situations where you get, 4-2 Carolina, right? That kind of a final. Carolina gets to 4, Calgary stays under 2.5. Because I would lean both ways too. Carolina team total over 3.5, Calgary team total under 2.5 here in this one. I'm pretty sure too, Bussy, the last 2 games where he struggled a bit more and gave up the 4 goals, I'm pretty sure those were, Vancouver wasn't a great team, so I stand corrected there. But Tampa was the other one where he gave up 4 goals. So, like I said, a little downturn in his performance, but this Calgary team has just gone, ice cold as far as putting the puck in the net, and which you figure. And now Nazem Kadri traded away from Calgary to Colorado as well. So Blake Coleman didn't move, though. Very interesting. Blake Coleman still a member of the Calgary Flames here. So very interesting to see that development when it's all said and done. Thought maybe he'd be on the move at the deadline, but stays put here in Calgary. Yeah, goal props for me. Jordan Staal, the captain. Nikolai Ehlers is a must bet right now. David, our good friend and big Canes fan from down in Carolina, he's talked about it. The chemistry and the confidence is starting to arrive for Nikolai Ehlers. You can tell he's finally getting comfortable in his own skin as a member of the Canes, and he's now scored in 3 straight games. You're still getting a pretty good price too, plus 250 for Nikolai Ehlers to score. So him, whether it's Taylor Hall, Jackson Blake starting to heat up again, those are some of the options I'd look at as far as goal props up for the Carolina Hurricanes tonight in this one. All right, New York Islanders and San Jose Sharks next up. Let me just see here. Well, there we go. New York Island. Let me get the graphic up. There we go. New York Islanders, San Jose Sharks. We've got looks like the price here is Islanders -135, road favorites, 6 the total in this game. What did I tell you guys about the San Jose Sharks as a favorite yesterday on the show? You can't trust them. You just can't. And sure enough, they lose 3-2 in overtime to the St. Louis Blues. That's now 1-3 off the top of my head for the San Jose Sharks as a favorite this season. But now they're back in the home dog role. They've been good in this role. I could see them winning this game. I'm leaning San Jose. I know it's a rest advantage for the Islanders. They played Thursday against LA. San Jose played last night, but no travel. Home game, and now another home game here for the San Jose Sharks. I just don't know if I want to. I know I don't want to lay a price on the road with the Islanders right now. It's not been a good road trip for them. They didn't look good against Anaheim. They really looked worse against LA the other night in that 5-3 loss to the Kings. So they're kind of going through some things right now. Their big acquisition, of course, Braden Shen at the deadline. Looks like he will make his Islanders debut. He's already joined the team here and will be in the lineup tonight for them, making his debut with the club. Nice pickup, with all the intangibles that he gives you as well, no question. This one I like the draw in for sure. And this feels like a good Islanders spot. I think San Jose, I think they'll play. I think there'll be some urgency from the Islanders here, knowing that, they don't want to go 0-3 on this California swing. San Jose's gone past regulation in 2 of the last 3 games. The Islanders, 3 of their last 7 have gone past regulation. We saw, pretty close games when these teams met the last 2, a 2-goal game and a 1-goal game. So I'm going to roll with the draw pregame. I'm going to wait. I want overs, but I want to wait a little bit. I don't want it at 6.5. I'm going to take my chances and see if we get a few scoreless minutes to begin the game and then be able to see this total drop to 5.5. And if it does, I'll jump on the over at that point. Pre-game, I like the draw. Mikey, what do you think here? Islanders, Sharks.
Ilya Sorokin, 3 or more goals allowed in 9 out of his last 13 games. I don't know if people have really dug into Ilya Sorokin lately, but he hasn't been the best.
I agree.
11 goals in his last 3 starts. Before that, he did well against New Jersey, but then 4 goals against Pittsburgh, 4 goals against Nashville, 3 against Seattle, 3 against Vancouver. And it's happening a lot on the road. And where is he going to start tonight? Likely on the road in the Shark Tank. Like you said, San Jose has a fave. No, thank you. San Jose has a dog. But at the end of the day, Isles off 2 L's. It hasn't been a good West Coast trip. But their schedule, I don't know if anyone kind of dug into their schedule, but since the break, at Montreal, at Columbus, you come home for 1 game against Florida, then you head out west, Ducks, Kings, and tonight the Sharks, and they end it Tuesday against St. Louis. So, a couple game skid, long road trip, 10 goals allowed. Am I expecting a better game out of the Islanders? I am. But this over is the way that it might be able to go, because you're likely going to see Askarov in net, and he hasn't been too good either. So it might be an over 6 game here for me. We'll find out soon once the goalies are confirmed.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'm definitely jumping in on the 5.5, because every Islander game since the Olympic break ended has gotten to 6 goals, and all but one of them have gotten to 7. So the one that got to 6 was that Anaheim game where they lost 5-1, but they played 5 games since the Olympic break ended, and all 5 games have gotten 6+ goals for the in Islander games. So that's why the value. That's why if I see a 5.5, I'm jumping on it here in this Islanders Sharks game. I like the draw pregame. Certainly, I'm not betting a pregame money line. I want to see how this game starts. But if I had to bet a pregame money line, I would only look San Jose here. I like them as a home dog. Don't love them as a favorite, but when they're a dog, they seem to rise to the occasion. And I agree with Mikey. Sorokin's been a little bit more hit or miss lately. I think because we saw Nedeljkovic last night, we should see our guy Yaroslav Yaroslav Askarov tonight for the San Jose Sharks in net. I would expect that. And he's been a little bit bumpy lately. It's been a bumpy road. He was in net for that crazy game against Montreal where they won, but he gave up 5 goals in a 7-5 win. So, like I said, these are 2 goalies that their current form leaves a little to be desired. There's a lot that I desire as far as props here. Graf, Misa. Now they didn't come through for me last night, but I think I'm going back to the well. Graf is still on the top line with Celebrini and Smith. Michael Misa, second line. Sherwood, someone to consider as well. He's starting to get comfortable with this Sharks team of late. For the New York Islanders, Heineman is starting to heat up again, so it might be time to revisit Emil Heineman and his territory. And I will go back one more time again to Anders Lee. We're not going to jump ship yet on Anders Lee, even though finally didn't score in the last game against Los Angeles. All right, next up, our last game, Ottawa Senators taking on the Seattle Kraken. Ottawa minus 160, road favorites. 6 the total here, shaded to the under in this one. This is another draw spot. I mean, I love these games where we have 2 teams, one from each conference. They need the points. I love these draw spots. We talked about it with Utah Columbus. We talked about it just now with Islanders and Sharks. And this is another good East versus West, 2 teams that need points, 2 teams that aren't going to care if the other team gets points because they're in the other conference. That I like this draw here with Ottawa-Seattle as well in this matchup. Ottawa with the win against Calgary 4-1. They bounced back after beating Edmonton, or losing, I should say, to Edmonton 5-4 in overtime. They've won 5 of 6 against Seattle. They've won 2 of the last 3 here in Seattle against this Kraken team. You look at Seattle, they're off a 3-2 loss to St. Louis at home. They scored 2 in a victory against Carolina. Now, they won, but they only scored 2. They did score 5 against Vancouver. They also scored 1 in losses to St. Louis and Dallas as well right after the break. So the point is 2 goals or fewer for the Kraken in 4 of their last 5 games. That said, I do like the Bobby McMahon ad. I really do. I think that they need a little more offense. He is not going to make his Kraken debut tonight. They've already said he's not going to play tonight, probably next game for him. And remember, it's cross-border shit with him. So it could take actually a little longer than that for him to join the team. Visa issues. It's always going to take some time. But, yeah, I know it's a juicy number with Seattle at home. And I don't love their game at the moment. Even the Carolina win 2-1, they got outshot 36-15 in that game. That was a Joey Decord special. He was outstanding. They really didn't play that well. They got outshot, minus 21 in the shot differential for Seattle in that game. And then in the other games, they beat Vancouver, no big deal. And then they lose to St. Louis twice and Dallas, and they don't score more than 2 goals in any of those games. This is another one where there's nothing I love in this game. I'd probably look and consider what I talked about with the Carolina-Calgary game. Maybe you look at an Ottawa team total over 3.5. Maybe you consider a Seattle team total under 2.5 here, which is around minus 105, minus 110. And Ottawa's been playing good defensive hockey throughout the Edmonton game. That's the one exception. They gave up 5 goals, but Edmonton can do that to teams, just score goals at home. They're good at that. Other than that, this team's played pretty good defensive hockey. And Linus Ullmark, seems to be getting a little bit more comfortable now as he gets more starts under his belt since he returned. It should be Ullmark and Decord in net for their respective teams, although it's not been confirmed. So, yeah, I'll probably dabble in both. Little Ottawa team total over 3.5 and a little Seattle team total under 2.5 because they're not scoring other than at Vancouver. This team has not scored more than 2 goals in any other game since the Olympic break, other than that 5-1 win that they had against the Vancouver Canucks. Mikey, last game, what do you think here? Ottawa, Seattle.
Yeah, I wanted to take Seattle. I really did. But like you said, the thing that was discouraging me from pulling the trigger was how they've been performing after the Olympic break. Like you said, 2 goals, 1 goal, 1 goal. They went off against Vancouver. So, I mean, what can you do with that? But, I mean, I'm not here to crown Ottawa any better because, I mean, what have they really done? They've beaten Toronto and Calgary since the break. They did lose to overtime in Detroit and Edmonton, but I'm not going to lay 160 on the road with Ottawa. I want to find a way to bet Seattle. I haven't found a way to bet them yet, but it would either be a lean towards Seattle or just to stay away from me on this one.
Yeah, draw is my favorite look. I mean, it's a great draw spot again in my mind. Seattle, or Ottawa rather, has gone to past regulation in 3 of their last 5 games. We saw the game in October between these teams in Ottawa last October, 4-3 Ottawa in a shootout. That game would have cashed the draw as well. So the draw is what I like the most. Smaller leans to the Ottawa team total over, smaller lean to the Seattle team total under here in this game. Draw is what I like the most. Goal props, yeah, Dylan Cousins, 100%. Yep. Got to ride the wave, and we always talk about this with the goal scorers that are streaking and multiple games in a row with a goal. We like to back those players, and Dylan Cousins, 3 straight games with a goal, plus 250 is what you can still get for him to find the back of the net. So like I said, very well worth a look there. Pinto is streaky, and I guess it was an empty net goal, so you can't give him too much credit for that. But Shane Pinto has had a lot of success scoring against Seattle. No team on this current Sens roster has scored more goals against Seattle than Shane Pinto. 75% of games against Seattle. Or that's not necessarily no player has scored more goals than Pinto against Seattle, but no player has scored more of a higher percentage in games against Seattle as far as goal scoring than Pinto. So I'm going to go with our guy Parlay Pinto here tonight in that plus 300 range. Chandler Stevenson's had some success against Ottawa in the past, so there might be a little value there with Chandler Stevenson for the Kraken, perhaps to find the back of the net tonight here in this game as well. So those are a couple of the goal props that I'd be considering here for this Sens Kraken game to wrap up the Saturday night. Batherson, too, is never a bad option. I agree, Nick, as far as goal prop for Ottawa. All right, great stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. I think still technical issues for poor Alex today, but he did pass along his betting card. I will mention his bargain bin special and his best bet when we get to that later in the show. But he did have a couple of looks as far as sides totals, and he did give a bargain bin and a best bet. So we will mention those here on the show when we get to those segments. Great job by Mikey. Appreciate it. Oh, by the way, Bruins Capitals scoreless at the end of the first. It's been strong. I think it's 21-10. I think Jonathan's got the numbers for second period over after a scoreless first period. I will be betting that with Washington and Boston. It's just become so strong, betting those second period overs when the first period didn't have a goal in it that you almost have to just take it. You have to bet it when you see it. So, and again, it's minus 160 right now with the second period over. So I am going to wait a little bit for that price to drop to where I want it, minus 120 or better. Once it hits that, we're in with Washington, Boston, over 1.5 in the second period. Yeah, 41-20. There it is since the turn of the new year. 41-20, second period over for games after a scoreless first period. Pretty strong, pretty good when you're talking about 41-20. So we'll jump on it. Like I said, going to wait just a minute or so. We'll get that sucker down to minus 120, hopefully in and around that range, and then we'll bet it. All right. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. Make sure, again, you check out wizardsportspicks.com. I'm now number one at that website in both NHL and college basketball. It's been a really good college basketball run as well, so make sure you get on board. Daily premium picks, long-term subscriptions, 3-day, 7-day, 30-day, 1-year all sports, all access passes available. Get on board at wizardsportspicks.com. And, of course, patreon.com/Ice Guys, $10 per month. Goalie charts, totals charts, daily betting cards, sides, totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page. And thanks to those that took advantage too. Only available to Patreon Ice Guys members. People have been asking because they enjoyed me posting basketball stuff during the Olympic break on the Patreon page. And they said, we hate to see that go away. Well, it's because I can't piss off the Dub Club members, and so I decided, you know what? The people that want to get involved with me for this month with all the college basketball going on, let's offer the Dub Club service for $50 off to Patreon Ice Guys members. And I did that. I dropped the price from $75 to just $25 a month for this month, 1 month of all sports at the Dub Club service, where you get every NHL, NBA, college basketball play, every sport. I have been asked too, Ian, you're not handicapping World Baseball Classic. No, I'm not. There's only so many hours in a day. There's only so much I can handle. I am not handicapping World Baseball Classic. I am ready to go, though, for opening day in Major League Baseball. I'm already starting to prep for Major League Baseball, and I will be ready to start firing away right on opening day when it comes to Major League Baseball. So, again, make sure you check it out, patreon.com/Ice Guys, $10 per month. Check it out there. And again, your membership goes a long way to supporting the show and keeping it going long term. The daily Ice Guys show betting card, and of course that $50 off Dub Club subscription for me, all sports, is available too for Patreon members on the Patreon page. So again, $10 per month, patreon.com/Ice Guys. And of course, last but not least, the Ice Guys store. Make sure you check out the Ice Guys store, get your gear and your merch. Tons of great options available at the Ice Guys store. So make sure you get on board there. That's at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. All right. There you go. Just make sure we get the site address there. There it is, the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. All right, bargain bin special of the night and best bets coming up right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Wizard Sports Picks, featuring the finest handicappers in the universe. Sharp insights, trusted picks, and relentless results. We strive to help you become consistent winners. This is Wizard Sports Picks.
All right, it's time for Bargain Bin Special of the night. And yes, we did cash one last night. Alex B. Smith, he delivered the goods with Ryan Donato of the Chicago Blackhawks. He scored very early in that game against Vancouver. So we did get one Bargain Bin Special winner last night. We'll see if we can add to it here on this Saturday. Mikey, we'll go to you first. Bargain Bin Special of the night. What do you got?
Yeah, my bargain bin for tonight is going to be anytime goal Kiefer Sherwood from the San Jose Sharks, plus 330. Here's why. 19 goals, 7 assists for 26 points on the year. He's got goals in 2 straight 5-year contract extension this week. But more importantly, although it's only been 2 games played versus Sorokin, he's got 3 goals against him, and it's very tough to have a anytime goal against Sorokin, but he hasn't been looking great lately. Sherwood's got his number, so at plus 330, I think it's a good look.
All right, good stuff. Kiefer Sherwood of the San Jose Sharks, who's been starting to heat up. I like going in that direction as far as bargain bin special is concerned. Bargain bin special for me, as far as this Saturday slate, this is another one where there's a few choices in mind, and I was mulling it over before the show. I'm going to have to decide right now when it's all said and done, but I think I'm going to try to go back to the well with a couple of players I've gone with before. I'm going to go to Easton Cowan for Toronto. I find this kid's, getting involved, making an impact. He's plus 500 tonight to score for the Leafs. I mean, he's been one of the bright spots, even during this, pretty porous run they've been on. So I'm going to go with that Easton Cowan for Toronto, plus 500 for my first bargain bin special of the night. My second bargain bin special of the night, I am going to go to, I don't know, I've got this, his Jackets debut. I think he's exactly what they need. Plus 450 is the best price out there. Connor Garland for the Columbus Blue Jackets. I will take him for my second bargain bin special of the night. So Easton Cowan for Toronto, plus 500, and Connor Garland for Columbus in his debut with the Blue Jackets, plus 450 for my bargain bin special. My 2 bargain bin specials here for this Saturday. All right, best bets. Mikey, what do you got for best bet?
Yeah, I really struggle with best bets today. It was going to be Boston, but it's an early matinee game, so we couldn't do that. And then it was between Columbus and Seattle on the money line, which I scratched them out to go with the over in San Jose. Isles Sharks over 6. I'm not a fan of the form of both goaltenders. Sharks went under yesterday. I know someone posted in the chat that the second game of back-to-back have been unders for San Jose, but at over 6, I'm willing to take a shot. 1-0 Boston, by the way.
There we go. Bruins just on the board. There we go. And you know what's great is I just got that friggin' live over in at minus 115. Holy
Zaka.
Great. Yeah. If that goal had happened a minute earlier, I would not have found the price on that over 1.5 for the second period that I would have wanted. So just in the nick of time. So there we go. It's double whammy of good news. We're on the Bruins, and of course we took that second period over 1.5. So Bruins up 1-0. Great stuff. Yeah, great job by Mikey. I second that, Ryan. Great job. We'll get him back on the show later in the season. Whenever his work schedule allows, we'll get him on the show. Come on, you know what my best bet is. Montreal, LA, over 5.5, minus 130. It's a cheap price. We cashed a best bet Thursday with the Kings over. We've cashed a best bet, I believe, with was Colorado, LA a best bet? I don't know if it was. It was a bet. I don't know if it was a best bet, but Islanders Kings was definitely a best bet on the show Thursday. We're going back to the well. I think we can get 6 goals. Neither team's playing great defense. Uptick in pace for the LA Kings under DJ Smith. So Montreal, LA, over 5.5, minus 130 for my best bet. All right, shout out to everyone in the chat. Appreciate you guys joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. And again, great job by Mikey here on this edition of the show. And we'll get him back on later in the season. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days. Oh, by the way, Alex, of course, I got to mention Alex's stuff. If you want Alex's full card, get on Patreon. We're just going to give you his bargain bin special and his best bet that he has got going for the show. His bargain bin special, he's got 2 bargain bins, and I'm not shocked by this one bit because he's cashed a bargain bin special with Mr. Saturday Night Cole Caulfield before. I think it was last week, and I think he's going back to that same well tonight. 2 bargain bin specials for Alex, both of them involving Cole Caulfield. Cole Caulfield over 1.5 goals, plus 1,100. So Caulfield to get 2 goals or more, plus 1,100. And Cole Caulfield over 2.5 points, 3 points or more, plus 825. So there you go. A couple of Cole Caulfield, Mr. Saturday Night bargain bin specials for Alex B. Smith. And his best bet is Carolina Calgary over 5.5, minus 125. So there you go. Canes and Flames over 5.5, minus 125 for Alex with his Saturday best bet. Great show. Thanks to everyone for joining us. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. And Jarek in the chat just stating that the news on Rope Hintz is he's out indefinitely, but the Stars hope he will be back for the playoffs. So unfortunate situation there. Rope Hintz going to miss some more time. That's a wrap. We're out of here. For Mikey, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll see you again tomorrow on Sunday, noon Eastern, for another edition of the Ice Guys.